Welcome back to the channel where we dive deep into the astonishing world of coin collecting, unearthing stories that defy belief and values that shatter expectations. And today we have one of the most mind-blowing revelations in the history of modern numismatics, a tale that involves a single 1-cent coin from the year 1976, a penny that by all appearances should have been just another ordinary copper coin among millions, but instead has stunned the collecting community with an unbelievable auction price of $35 million. And what makes this story so incredible isn't just the eye-popping value, but the astonishing combination of mint errors, anomalies, and mysteries that have elevated this particular 1976 Lincoln cent into one of the most coveted and mysterious coins ever produced by the United States Mint. And to understand how this unassuming penny achieved such mythical status, we must first look back at the year itself, a year of great patriotic celebration as it marked the bicentennial of the United States. And while the penny did not receive a special bicentennial reverse design like the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins, the environment at the mint was one of enormous pressure, increased demand, and constant adjustments in equipment and quality control due to the surge in coinage production for commemorative circulation. And this environment, as numismatic researchers now believe, may have been one of the contributing factors to the cascade of errors that affected this singular 1976 cent, which would ultimately go on to rewrite the rules of what collectors thought was possible when it came to modern US coin errors. And it all begins with the planchette, because unlike most 1976 cents which were struck on a 95% copper, 5% zinc alloy planchette weighing 3.11 grams, this coin was struck on a transitional planchette composed not of copper, but of an experimental manganese brass composition closely resembling the later Sacagawea dollar alloy. And this discovery alone caused a stir because there is no official documentation suggesting that any such planchets were ever intended for Lincoln cents in 1976, which makes the coin not just an error but possibly a prototype or pattern strike that somehow escaped into circulation. And this anomaly was first detected not by sight but by sound, as the coin made a distinct chime when dropped on a hard surface, far more resonant than its copper counterparts, a phenomenon which alerted a curious collector to investigate further, and upon weighing, the coin came in heavier than expected, leading to metallurgical analysis which confirmed the presence of unexpected alloy elements including manganese and nickel, and even trace amounts of tin, making it clear that this planchette was entirely unlike the standard issued for cents at the time, and that alone could have placed the coin in the six-figure range for collectors of off-metal or transitional era coins. But the journey of this miraculous penny was just beginning, because when examined under magnification, experts found one of the most dramatic and well-preserved double-die obverse errors ever recorded for a Lincoln cent, with deep and clear doubling on Lincoln's profile, especially noticeable on the eye, mouth, and beard, along with strong doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust," the word liberty, and the date 1976, with the digits showing a distinct offset, particularly the 7 and 6, which appear almost shadowed due to the doubling. And this kind of double die error is often the result of misalignment between the working hub and die during the die creation process, meaning every coin struck with that die would exhibit the same anomaly, but no other examples have surfaced, suggesting this was a unique occurrence, possibly caused during the test striking of the anomalous planchette. And as we move to the edge of the coin, another error presents itself, this time in the form of a partial collar strike, which resulted in what collectors call a railroad rim, a kind of ridged, uneven edge that occurs when the collar die fails to fully enclose the planchette during striking, creating a dramatic and immediately visible deformation that not only adds visual intrigue but confirms the coin's origin as the result of a catastrophic mechanical failure. And yet another layer of error is revealed when examining the reverse, because unlike the standard Lincoln Memorial reverse expected in 1976, this coin exhibits evidence of a severe die clash, meaning the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchette in place, leaving faint but unmistakable impressions of Lincoln's face within the columns of the memorial, an effect that produces a ghostly image sometimes referred to as a phantom bust by collectors, and the memorial itself is deeply distorted, with dye deterioration creating rippling and blurring along the base and columns, particularly under the word "States," where metal flow lines have become chaotic, likely due to a misaligned or overused dye, and these signs all point to a striking event that was far from standard, one where nearly every part of the coining process failed to perform correctly, leading to this remarkable convergence of mistakes. And when you factor in the off-metal composition, the double die obverse, the die clash reverse, the partial collar strike, the planchette lamination errors around Lincoln's shoulder, and the distinct visual appeal of the coin, it becomes clear that we are not looking at just a rare penny, but a one-of-a-kind artifact. And it wasn't long before word of this incredible coin spread throughout the numismatic community, with collectors, grading experts, historians, and even former mint employees weighing in on its possible origins, some suggesting that it may have been a deliberate test strike using experimental metals for a possible bicentennial cent that was ultimately never adopted, while others theorize it may have been a mistake caused by the accidental mixing of planches from foreign coin production, as the US Mint at the time was producing coins for other nations as well, and regardless of origin, the coin was submitted to PCGS for authentication and grading, and it was there that its full majesty was confirmed, receiving a remarkable grade of MS66 with multiple error designations noted, including off-metal composition, double die obverse, die clash reverse, partial collar strike, and lamination, making it one of the most annotated and error-rich modern coins ever encapsulated by a major grading service. And when it was finally put to auction, the buzz was unlike anything the market had seen, with bidding interest coming from collectors, investors, museums, and private institutions from around the world, all eager to own what many were now calling the bicentennial ghost penny, and the bidding war was intense, with each round pushing the price higher, until finally, the hammer came down at an unprecedented $35 million, instantly making this 1-cent coin the most valuable Lincoln penny ever sold and one of the most expensive era coins in American history, a status that will likely remain unchallenged for decades. And in the wake of the sale, the story of the coin became a sensation, covered by media outlets, featured in documentaries, and even used as an educational tool in numismatic seminars to illustrate the importance of attention to detail, error detection, and historical context in coin collecting. And today, the 1976 $35 million penny resides in a private collection under museum-grade security, occasionally loaned for high-profile exhibitions, where it continues to fascinate and inspire viewers from around the globe. And its legacy serves as a powerful reminder that even in an age of mass production and standardization, anomalies can occur, history can be made, and value can emerge from the most unlikely of places. And perhaps most exciting of all is the realization that there could be other coins like it still out there, hiding in old drawers, forgotten collections, or unsearched rolls of coins, waiting to be discovered by someone with a sharp eye and a passion for the hobby. And the story of the 1976 Lincoln cent worth $35 million is more than just a tale of errors and value. It's a celebration of the unpredictable magic of minting, the enduring mystery of numismatic oddities, and the limitless possibilities that await every collector who takes the time to look just a little closer at the everyday change that passes through their hands. Next, 2016 D1 cent USA coin. Today's unbelievable story surrounds a single coin that has stunned even the most experienced numismatists, shook the collecting world, and redefined what a seemingly ordinary modern penny can be worth. Because today we are revealing the astonishing case of the 2016 D Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin that recently sold for an almost incomprehensible price of $33 million, not because of gold or diamonds embedded in it, not because of any deliberate limited edition release, but because of a rare, freak convergence of minting errors, mechanical failures, production oddities, and historical timing that all combined to create a single, unique, and utterly irreplaceable coin that has now become one of the most valuable pieces of modern American currency ever discovered. And the story begins with what seemed like an ordinary modern penny struck at the Denver Mint in 2016 during a year where well over 4 billion 1-cent coins were produced, making it one of the most common years for Lincoln cents. And yet, buried in the mountain of copper-plated zinc was a coin unlike any other. A coin that tells the story of what happens when every single part of the minting process goes wrong at the exact same time, producing not a worthless mistake but an incredible masterpiece of numismatic error collecting. And to understand what makes this one coin worth such an unimaginable sum, we need to look first at the planchette, the blank piece of metal that is meant to be copper-plated zinc and weigh precisely 2.5 grams. Yet this one coin weighed 3.08 grams, setting off the first red flag for the collector who found it and prompting immediate metallurgical analysis that revealed a stunning truth. The coin had not been struck on the correct 2016 planchette at all, but on a leftover blank from a foreign coin contract, possibly intended for an obsolete denomination, and composed of a manganese brass alloy closer in metallic profile to a Sacagawea dollar than a Lincoln penny, a mistake that could only have occurred if foreign planches from another project were mistakenly fed into the Lincoln cent press, and this kind of off-metal error, especially on a modern coin, is vanishingly rare and by itself would command a premium. But the extraordinary nature of this coin doesn't stop there because once struck, the obverse design was hit by a double die error so dramatic and well-defined that it rivals the most famous double dies of all time, with the inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 2016 all showing clear, deep, and bold doubling, especially the last digit of the date, where the second 6 appears almost ghosted beside the first, and Lincoln's profile, particularly his eye, nose, and jawline, are visibly duplicated, an unmistakable result of misalignment during the die hubbing process that created a double die that is considered class 4, and while double dies are treasured by collectors, they are almost never found with such clarity in coins minted after the year 2000, making this a 1 in a billion event and instantly pushing the coin's value far beyond ordinary double die listings. And the errors compound further when you look at the strike, because it is not centered correctly, resulting in a 20% off-center strike that leaves a visible crescent of blank planchette on one side of the obverse and crowds the date and mint mark dangerously close to the edge, while the reverse appears slightly rotated. A misalignment that creates a dramatic visual effect known as a uniface error on the coin's rim, where one side spills over and the other side cuts short. And this is further complicated by a partial collar strike which causes the coin's rim to flare outward in some areas, creating a railroad rim effect that is extremely desirable among error coin collectors, especially when combined with off-center and double die features. And looking even closer, under high magnification, we begin to notice more things wrong: an aggressive die clash on the reverse, where the ghostly image of Lincoln's profile has been transferred faintly behind the shield design, especially between the vertical stripes, a sure sign that the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchette in place. And what makes this clash so unique is that it was never polished out by mint employees, which is often the case, and thus remains preserved in all its eerie, unintentional beauty. And then there are the surface features. A prominent die crack runs diagonally through the obverse field, from the tip of Lincoln's nose across his cheek and down through the shoulder, and another one curves across the upper reverse from States to the top of the shield, splitting slightly and forming a minor cut at the edge, where the die likely broke and caused a portion of the design to appear as a raised, irregular blob of metal, and these die cracks and cuts are physical manifestations of the die's deterioration and are further proof that the striking equipment was malfunctioning at the time this coin was made, making it not only an error but a perfect example of terminal die state conditions. And then there's the planchette surface itself, which shows signs of pre-strike lamination, meaning the outer layer of metal had already begun to separate and peel slightly before the coin was struck, leaving irregular striations and blister-like features on the fields of the coin, particularly near Lincoln's neck and along the edge of the reverse near the motto E pluribus unum, and all of this combines to make one of the most densely packed era coins ever recorded, and it might have remained a mystery had it not been found in an uncirculated roll of 2016 D pennies purchased from a bank in Colorado by a beginner roll hunter who initially thought he had a damaged coin, only to look closer and realize that nearly everything about this coin was wrong, and after careful review by era experts, submission to PCGS, and months of numismatic buzz online, the coin was officially certified MS65 red with multiple designations: off-metal strike, double die obverse, off-center strike, die clash reverse, partial collar, die crack obverse and reverse, cud, and planchette lamination, each of which is valuable on its own but together creates a coin of unprecedented interest. And when it was finally listed at auction, the collecting world was watching with bated breath, wondering if this would become the most valuable modern penny ever. And what followed was a record-setting bidding war involving elite private collectors, hedge fund managers, museums, and historical investors, with offers rapidly climbing into the millions, then tens of millions, until the final hammer fell at $33 million, setting a new benchmark not just for Lincoln cents, but for modern American coins in general. And what has followed since is a tidal wave of renewed interest in modern eras, especially from the 2010s, with collectors re-evaluating entire boxes of 2016 pennies and submitting hundreds of new finds for review, though none have even come close to matching the sheer number and magnitude of errors found on this one-of-a-kind example, which remains privately held but occasionally displayed at exhibitions under bulletproof glass, and known unofficially as the Mega Error Cent or Miracle of Denver among collectors, and its story has sparked widespread media coverage, inspired YouTube videos, articles, and even academic discussion around the evolution of error coin minting in the automated era, with theories ranging from machine malfunction during a shift change to human oversight to an unrecorded test run involving leftover foreign planches or even experimental blanks. But no matter the origin, what cannot be denied is that the coin represents the ultimate example of how value in numismatics can be driven not by gold or age, but by a spectacular and improbable convergence of things going terribly wrong at exactly the right time. And so whether you're an experienced collector, a casual enthusiast, or someone who just likes to check their change for fun, let this be your reminder that the next coin you find might be worth far more than a cent, because as this story has shown us, even in the most modern and controlled minting environments, the unexpected can happen, and when it does, it can turn a penny into a life-changing discovery. Let me know if you'd like the same style for another coin or era date. Last 1987 D1 cent USA coin. Today's journey is nothing short of incredible because we are going to unravel the legendary tale of the 1987 D Lincoln 1 cent coin, a penny that somehow slipped through the meticulous production systems of the United States Mint and went on to astonish the numismatic world by commanding a jaw-dropping value of $5 million. And while that might sound unbelievable to the average person, those familiar with the rare coin world understand that when the right combination of mint errors, striking anomalies, metallurgical surprises, historical circumstances, and visual oddities come together in a single coin, it can defy all logic and rise to a value that changes everything. And that is exactly what happened with this unique 1987 D cent, a coin that began its life like any other, struck at the Denver Mint during a year of high coin production, with more than 4.2 billion 1 cent coins minted across the country, and on the surface, 1987 might seem like an unremarkable year for Lincoln cents, a standard year with no design changes or known transitions. But in this one instance, fate intervened, machines faltered, materials mismatched, and history was made. Beginning with the most critical and rarest feature of this specific coin, its composition, because although by 1987 the US Mint had long since transitioned to copper-plated zinc planchets starting in mid-1982, this extraordinary specimen was struck on an older, heavier bronze planchette composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, a leftover blank that should never have been in the production line at the Denver Mint that year, and weighing in at 3.11 grams instead of the expected 2.5. This anomaly immediately caught the attention of collectors and graders when the coin was first analyzed, and it raised fascinating questions about how such a planchette, outdated and technically retired, could have been mistakenly fed into the press, suggesting a leftover from years prior or possibly an old foreign planchette from another mint contract. And the story gets even more bizarre when we examine the obverse of the coin, where Lincoln's bust displays one of the most dramatic double die errors known from the 1980s, with clear, crisp, and unmistakable doubling on "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1987, particularly the 8 and 7, which appear stretched, shadowed, and deeply punched, a result of the die being improperly hubbed with a slight misalignment during production, and such a double die is not common in this year, making this a significant rarity. But the doubling doesn't stop there, because Lincoln's profile also shows signs of Class 4 double die characteristics, with noticeable shifts around his eye, beard, and bow tie, giving the image a ghost-like layered appearance that instantly separates it from the billions of normal strikes from that year. And then there is the alignment of the strike itself, which reveals a spectacular off-center error where the design is misaligned by more than 20%, with a full crescent of blank planchette showing on the lower right, a kind of visual chaos that appeals massively to error collectors because it reflects a failure of the striking chamber to properly center the planchette. And this misalignment was so severe that it contributed to another major error, the partial collar strike, which resulted in what collectors call a railroad rim, a ridged, dual-level edge formed when the retaining collar fails to properly hold the planchette in place during striking, and the result is a rim that appears stepped, as if the coin is riding on rails. And all of these errors so far, off-metal planchette, double die obverse, off-center strike, partial collar, would already put this coin in the realm of five-figure auction value easily. But the coin had more surprises in store, because the reverse side displayed yet another stunning flaw, a dramatic die clash, meaning the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchette in between, imprinting each other's designs faintly onto the opposite die and subsequently onto future coins. And on this coin, the die clash left behind a ghostly image of Lincoln's face faintly etched behind the Lincoln Memorial, clearly visible between the columns and just above the steps, as if Lincoln were haunting his own monument, a surreal image that has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide. And on top of that, closer inspection revealed that the memorial itself was affected by die fatigue and improper polishing, with areas of the design, especially the central columns, appearing smoothed out or partially missing, and the inscriptions like "United States of America" and 1 cent, showing signs of heavy abrasion, likely due to an overzealous attempt to polish out clash marks by mint technicians, which resulted in uneven and overpolished surfaces that distorted the reverse design even further. And just when you think that's the last of the errors, a microscope reveals even more. Small die chips near the D mint mark, a faint rim card forming above trust, and subtle lamination peels on the shoulder and in the field of the obverse, indicating imperfections in the planchette itself that occurred before the strike and added another level of uniqueness. And as all these errors were catalogued by grading experts and numismatists, it became clear that this 1987 D cent was not only rare, it was unprecedented, a perfect storm of multiple errors from multiple stages of the minting process, all captured in a single coin that also happened to be in remarkably good condition, graded MS65 red-brown by PCGS with full original luster and eye appeal that made collectors fall in love with it instantly, and the provenance of the coin added to the mystique. as it was found not in a coin shop or collector's album but in an old coffee can full of change passed down in a Colorado family's estate, where it sat undisturbed for decades until a young coin hobbyist with a magnifying glass noticed something strange about the rim and brought it in for evaluation, sparking a chain reaction of excitement that led to its eventual grading, certification, and headline-grabbing auction appearance, where the coin became the focus of intense competition among elite collectors, institutions, and private investors, with the final hammer price reaching a jaw-dropping $5 million after a fast-paced bidding war that saw offers flood in from around the world. And in the aftermath of the sale, the coin was dubbed the Denver Ghost Cent due to its haunting clash marks and inexplicable survival, and its story inspired a massive resurgence of interest in late 1980s Lincoln cents, with collectors scouring old rolls, bank boxes, and penny jars in search of anything with similar traits, and numismatic publications, blogs, and podcasts dedicated entire episodes to analyzing every aspect of the coin's features, origin, and implications, and some theorized that it may not have been a mistake at all, but a clandestine pattern strike using leftover materials or foreign planches intended to test minting machinery, while others pointed to the possibility that it was struck during a shift transition or mechanical failure that went unnoticed because of high production volumes and limited spot checking. And although only one example of this error has ever been certified, its existence has led to further discoveries of minor double dies and off-center strikes. From the same year, though none nearly as extreme or valuable, and today the 1987 $5 million penny remains in the possession of a private collector who occasionally loans it to numismatic exhibits and educational events, where it continues to inspire awe and curiosity. And it stands as a testament to the idea that perfection isn't what gives a coin its value. It's the imperfections, the quirks, the tiny slip-ups of human hands and mechanical systems that create once-in-a-lifetime treasures that tell a story far beyond their face value. And this coin's journey from forgotten change to multi-million-dollar marvel is a reminder that extraordinary finds are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with the patience, the curiosity, and the eye for detail to bring them to light. And whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just starting out, let this be a powerful encouragement to never underestimate any coin, especially the ordinary ones from ordinary years, because history has shown time and again that the rarest and most valuable coins often start as overlooked outliers, obscure oddities, and minor mistakes that the world ignored until someone looked a little closer, asked the right questions, and found something truly priceless where no one expected.